It's David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be talking about the Titans, the first children of the gods, the first mortals, although they may in fact be immortal. So the way I do Titans in my game, in my mythology, is that they were the first humanoids. The first men were in fact Titans. They were created by the gods along with the earth itself. And of course, then came the war in heaven as the Dark One, the spawn of the fallen, tried to corrupt man. And the angels above fought with the demons below, and they declared the earth itself neutral ground and territory. Neither could interject directly. Of course, this invited the eldritch abominations, baby. Oh, Lord, from the far realms coming through. Unpronounceable beasts. Nyarlathotep, Shub-Niggurath, Tsathoggua. Cthulhu himself may have been there. I haven't checked his photo albums, but he may have been there. They, of course, subjugated, driven off, destroyed, put to sleep by the dragons as the gods created them to save Earth without interjecting angels directly. It was then, after being tortured, savaged by the abominations, by the Qliphoth, whatever you want to call them, the Shoggoths, the gibbering mouthers, it was then that the dragons enslaved mankind, enslaved the Titans, interbred with them to create the lizard men, the serpent folk, however you want to call them, the Mahers. But eventually those serpent folk rose up, destroyed the dragon kings forever. And it was then, after being tortured by the creatures of the far realms, after being enslaved by the dragons of the sky, it was then that the Titans gained their freedom again, finally, after ages of time. And the Titans, seeing the great example of the dragons, of civilization, were no longer content to be hunter-gatherers. They began developing their own civilizations. Some of them moved underground. They became the primordial dwarves, the Khazalid. Some of them took into the trees, and they became the Eladrin, the original elves. Others to the far northern wastes, where they became ogres. And those in the plains became humanity itself. Now, of course, these have all split and fractured with the Khazalid eventually coming forth from the earth with the quest for sky. They have reached back to the surface of the world. And they have driven before them orcs which were once their brothers. Now these primordial orcs were much more akin to dwarfs, to the Khazalid. Must remember the ancient past, the history. Things were not as they are today. These orcs came forth and were driven into the forest. The elves, for the first time, were confronted by outsiders. They interbred with them. They created what we now know as orcs through that interbreeding. And they were most displeased. Some of the elves said, we must genocide these orcs. But the others could not abide by such. They put them off. The great civil war and the schism, and the dark elves were expelled. Ironically, to take solace, to take sanctuary in the mountains, where they have become goblins, what some might know as drow. And of course, through all of this, much interbreeding has gone on. Some say that the last remnant of the Titans are trolls, that they have devolved and degenerated, where trolls can be found most anywhere. They shared little in common, though, with the other races, having this innate power to mutate, to regenerate, and yet a clouded mind that they cannot build. Is this the form of the Titans? Or is it something else? There are whispers still that some Titans yet remain in their original form and splendor. Some say these are the legendary storm giants, that they found magic, the first magic, and that they now dwell in the clouds, not quite reaching to heaven, but drifting on the winds. So these are the tales of the Titans, the first race of men split into all others. And that some of that first race, the first mortals, may indeed be drifting on their sky islands, far over our heads. We would not even know it. So that is how I do Titans in my game. Of course, there's a variety, a plethora of ways that you can include them. So let me ask you, how do you do Titans in your game? In the comments below, video response. I want to know. And until I see you again, good day and good gaming.